Hello everyone, we are here to present the speech To Lead or Not to Lead Changing the World with Shakespeare. This speech was delivered by Guy Robert. So, To Lead or Not to Lead Changing the World with Shakespeare. This speech was given by the famous actor, director, and a producer Guy Robert. Guy is a founder and artistic director of Prague Shakespeare Company, the professional English language theatre of the Czech Republic. Guy frequently lectures and trains executive leadership in the corporate world using Shakespeare history plays as a model for success. His TEDx Youth Talk To Lead or Not to Lead Changing the World with Shakespeare is one of his famous speech. He starts his speech when he was 15 years old. William Shakespeare changed his life. He thought he would become a painter, but he heard there was a play called Hamlet. That there was a film version of this by Laurence Olivier, who produced and directed and acted in the film, and the film won the Best Picture, and Olivier won the Academic Award for Best Actor. Guy was very much influenced by Shakespeare. So, in the speech, he talks about brain response, the great chain of being, and leadership qualities. First, let's see about the brain response. He says that in 2006, Liverpool University, a group of scientists, researchers, and English professor get together and they did a study on Shakespeare. On the brain, what he found was remarkable. They discovered that Shakespeare affects the right hemisphere of the brain, specifically the part of the brain that deals with autobiographical memory. Now, this is a part of our brain that re examines and re evaluates experience, and in 400 is a name we give to the brain response that happen 400 milliseconds. After we experience a normal thought or perception, a P600 is a brain response that occurs 600 milliseconds after we experience an extraordinary thought or perception. And the extra 200 milliseconds are needed because the brain goes into a moment of sort of temporary paralysis, while now pathway and new connections are made. Shakespeare constantly produces P600 experience in the brain. Shakespeare changes our brain, it changes young brain and changes old brain, alike it changed Guy Robert brain. Next, let's see about the great chain of being. Guy Robert tell, in Shakespeare's day, there still existed the remnants of this medieval belief called the great chain of being. Shakespeare himself probably did not totally believe in this, but it was still woven into the fabric of society. It permitted everything simplicity. The great chain of being is a system of looking at the universe where everything in existence has a fixed place on this metaphysical chain. At the very top is God, heaven, and order at the very bottom the devil, hell, and chaos. And everything has its place. The lion is a king of beasts. He is closer to the god, higher above than a bullfrog. Now only men and women can change their place on this ladder through their action and their free will. Human being can rise up towards heaven or down towards hell, and this is the fundamental story of every Shakespeare play. Someone who's trying to change their position on their ladder, someone who's trying to achieve happiness and reduce their suffering. Now, sometimes a good guy, one like Henry V, they go up. So, someone like bad guy who's like the Richard III, who decides the only way to achieve the happiness and reduce his suffering, and he goes down towards the hell. So now let's see the leadership quality. So Guy Robert tells that Shakespeare believed that great leaders were made, not born. Guy Robert tells about the best leadership qualities and worst leadership quality through the play of Richard II, Henry IV, and Henry V. He says the greatest and worst leader that Shakespeare talks about are First, Shakespeare play constantly focus on pitfalls and rewards of leadership. By examining Shakespeare's greatest and worst leader, Guy Robert begins with Richard II. Richard II is a supreme example of a very bad king. He believes he is a god on earth. King Richard II banishes Henry Bolingbroke and he seizes noble land and uses money lavishly. After that, Henry Bolingbroke returns to England to reclaim his land. Henry Bolingbroke gathered an army to fight against Richard II. So, in that war, Henry Bolingbroke wins and he becomes the king as Henry IV. Henry imprisons the Richard II and Richard II murdered in prison. So, Guy Roberts say Richard II was not a good person. He was a foolish and a weak king. He misused his power and took a wrong decision. So Guy conclude that Richard II was an unworthy leader. So next Guy talks about Henry IV. So after Richard II, Henry IV became the king of England. In the beginning of the play, Henry IV is dying and he is sick from some mysterious disease. And the stress and burden of leadership are aging him. Henry IV also concerned before he dies that his son Prince Hall is entirely unfit to be king. So now Guy Roberts says that Henry IV also regarded as a bad king because he did not know how to handle the leadership pressure. So finally, Guy Roberts talks about Henry V. So now Prince Hall was the last king. He was hanging out in bars, pubs, with prostitutes, with thieves. He was drinking, he was robbing people, he was avoiding responsibility. Everyone thought he will be a great king, but he was avoiding his responsibility. But upon the death of his father, Henry undergoes a massive change. So we start to understand that maybe some of the thing he was doing was with a purpose because he wanted to understand the people he was going to rule. So now very shortly after he came to the throne, Henry was given his first great test. So the French ambassador comes to the court and gives Henry V a gift of tennis ball from the French king's son Dauphin. And the Dauphin tells Henry he has to consume his time with sports and games and not to bother about the real leadership. He says that the real leadership should be left to the king who were born to it. Suddenly, all eyes are on Henry V. Everyone is looking to see what Henry V is going to tell. Henry V tell the France ambassador that not only he will be the king of England and go to France and be the king of France as well. So Henry passed his first great test. So he had to visualize a happy future for him, for his country, and that future is by conquering the France. So in the climax of the play, so in the Battle of Agincourt, Henry men were very weak and they were very tired. So, but France were with full army and they were very strong. So in the morning of the battle, Henry gave a motivational speech and he supported his soldier. Finally, Henry V won the battle against France and he conquered the France. So Henry becomes a man he wants to be, says Guy Robert. So finally, Guy Robert tells that the best leader example is Henry V. So he asks to lead a company or family or friends to a great success against overwhelming odds. We have to act like Henry V again and again. So the best leadership quality is found in Henry V. Among these two, Henry V is the best leader and he is the best example of the leadership. So next, he also tells that if you want to be, if you want a great love in your life, even if your family and your society are against you, act like Rosalind and Juliet again and again. So to change out the world, we have to act like Shakespeare, to change our brain, to change our life, to change our community lives, to understand ourselves and understand the world by speaking Shakespeare. Because by speaking Shakespeare, our life will be better. Guy Robert tell that by speaking Shakespeare, his life was changed. So he asked us to speak and act like Shakespeare to bring out the same changes in our life. Hope you all understand the speech. So I'm very much glad to inform my team members who worked together to make this PowerPoint presentation successful. So our Cherina Venus introduction, our Seneca brain response and PowerPoint, D Jamuna great chain of response, great chain of being, R Gomati leadership quality, S Madhumita, Henry V and voiceover. Thank you.